What is up, my friends? Cliff Ravenscraft here, and in this video, I want to share with you a formula on how to achieve your goals. Now, I don't know if one video in and of itself can answer all of the distinctions that need to be made about each of the steps in this formula, but in a nutshell, I have learned and discovered over, well, several decades of trial and error and practice on going after the things I most want in life. It is these steps that I'm going to share with you that I have found that has made it possible for me to duplicate success in achieving the things that I go after in life. If that sounds interesting to you, that's what this video is going to be about. I happen to be broadcasting this message on Facebook on Monday, June 29th, 2020. So I may take some questions and comments from the folks who are watching live as I go through this. So if you're watching live, hello. But it's certainly, I think this will be an evergreen piece of content. I've given this talk several times at many different conferences, and today I just decided in the heat of the moment, it's like, you know what? It's a great day. I think I'm going to go live and I want to share something valuable with anybody who might be interested. So if you've got goals or dreams you'd like to go after in life, I want to encourage you to get serious about what you want and let's do this thing. All right. So if that's valuable to you, let's get started. So, first of all, step by step formula. I've often joked about this, but there is a biblical formula for how to get exactly what you want. And it's actually just a one-step formula. You could argue that it's a two-step formula, but the second step is pretty much just okay, receive what you've asked for. And I've just given you a hint as into step number one. The Bible simply says, ask and you shall receive. So there you go. Let's see here. I'm going to pull up comments as they come in. Chris Murray says, "Hey, Cliff, miss your weekly podcast." Well, I don't know if you've checked out the Cliff Ravenscraft show. There were 3 episodes this past week. So I encourage you to check out the Cliff Ravenscraft show in your favorite podcast directory. And also, if you ever get to the place where there's not episodes coming out every single week of the Cliff Ravenscraft show, you certainly want to check out mindsetanswerman.com/audio journal. My audio journal podcast comes out at least once a week, and I've produced 18 episodes in the last 7 days. I'm currently doing a series on, hold on, over here somewhere. I'm doing a series on Think and Grow Rich, Cliff's Notes on the Philosophy of Success as taught by Napoleon Hill here in his book called Think and Grow Rich. So check it out, mindsetanswerman.com/audio journal. All right, so ask is what the Bible says, and you shall receive. Now, the thing is I told you that step one is ask, but there's a lot that goes along with that. You have to ask, but how do you ask? You have to ask with faith. In fact, there are other scriptural references where it says anyone who asks and believes and does not doubt will have what they receive. But so, like I said, there's distinctions, and I'm not going to be able to say everything that you need to know about how to achieve your goals, but at least I'm going to get you started in the right direction. Now, today I'm going to share with you let me just share. So that's a one-step formula. Ask and receive. Boom. So the Bible seems to indicate that all you have to do is ask for things that you believe are possible and you'll receive it. Now, the next thing and I, by the way, I do not want to suggest that if you just ask about something, visualize it, see it in your mind, pretend as though you already have it, and then all of a sudden you don't have to do anything other than that. You just believe and it just shows up. Uh, that doesn't happen. Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich he says there's no such thing as something for nothing. You have to ask yourself, what am I willing to give in return for this thing that I desire? So there's that. Tony Robbins has a great step-by-step formula for how to get everything you want, and it's included in what I'm sharing here today. So that expanded it for me. He calls it his ultimate success formula. And his ultimate success formula is number one, know what you want or know your outcome. Number two, he says, is to decide and take immediate action. And he says you should never leave the site of a decision without taking action. I'm going to go into decision a little bit more in my step-by-step formula because, which of course is this step from Tony Robbins. Once you've decided and you've taken action, he says, then step 3 is to evaluate your results. Once you have seen what happens as a result of the actions you take and say, am I closer to my goal? Have I achieved my goal? Whether if I haven't achieved my goal, what other things do I need to do? I need to evaluate my results. I evaluate where I am. If what I tried doesn't work, then step number 4, change your approach, he says, and you'll do that as many times as necessary. All right? So, with that being said, there are lots of formulas out there for how to get what you want. And I have found value in all of them. And today I'm going to share with you a quick overview of my step by step formula. Step number 1, very similar to things that you've heard already, is to know what you want. You can't get something that you don't know that you're looking for. In fact, oftentimes the things that you would want in your life, they're already available to you. They're sitting right there in front of your plain sight. Every day, opportunities exist in abundance for you to get whatever it is that you want in life. But if you don't know what it is that you want, you never see those opportunities. It's kind of like somebody who buys a red Lexus. They've wanted a red Lexus, and all of a sudden they decide they go out and buy a red Lexus, and now they see red Lexuses everywhere. It's not that all of a sudden everybody went to the car dealership and got a red Lexus the same week that you did. No, what happens is that now all of a sudden your brain, this reticular activating system inside of your brain that God has given us, says, hey, this color of this vehicle, this make, this model is now all of a sudden important. You see, our senses, we smell things, we see things, we hear things, we feel things, we touch things. We have so much information pouring into our five senses. We actually have an millions and millions of different little pieces of information that we could. I'm just tell you right here. I see different white pixels in the menu of my computer screen right now. I see the playback of this video. I see the mic flag. I wasn't thinking about the mic flag until I just looked at it. I noticed that I got my little toy cars here. I wasn't thinking about that. Now I noticed the Apple remote. Now, I didn't think of, I was not even consciously aware of any of those things until I just looked. Now, the thing is I'm making eye contact with you, but in my peripheral vision, I still see all of those things that I wasn't consciously aware of before. Because here's what God has given us as a brain, and it's amazing. It does all this automatically, but it takes all of this sensory information and says, listen, I don't want to overload your conscious mind. You need to use your conscious mind to focus and get things done, to accomplish the things I put you on this earth to do. And so, because of that, I'm going to say, that all of this myriad, this millions and millions of different things you could be focused on, and I'm going to allow you to completely eliminate all of that, and I'm only going to allow you to focus on what's most important. So everything else is going into my subconscious. It's there. I know that it's around me. There's all kinds of things there that you guys are seeing that I'm not consciously aware of. And the reason why is because my brain is consciously deleting anything that's not important. And so that's what I'm saying is if before you buy your red Lexus, those red Lexuses were everywhere, but you can't consciously go down the road and make a mental log of every car, every make, every model, every color. It would you would go crazy if you had to make a mental conscious awareness of everything in your surrounding. There's too much. So what's happened is before you ever bought your own red Lexus, that car, that make, that model was no more important than all the other cars that you pass on the road. And now all of us, but now you buy this car and it all of a sudden you need to know it. You need to actually be on the lookout for it. It's like, hey, is that my red Lexus that somebody's just stole off the side of the street where I parked it in this city? Or hey, I'm now walking out of a store. Where did I park my what? Red Lexus. So now your brain is consciously attuned to looking for the red Lexus. The question is when I walk out of the store, do I know what I want? Yes, I'm looking for my car. And so now all of a sudden, that's what I'm saying. When you know what you're looking for, you'll see them everywhere. And you might walk out of the store and you glance out at the hundreds of cars in this massive parking lot at the mall or at the amusement park. There might be thousands of cars. And as you look out, you see 15 red Lexuses. Which one of those 15 red Lexuses are my Lexus? All right. By the way, I don't have a red Lexus, but this is how this stuff works. So the question is do you know what you want? Have you decided what it is that you want? And if you haven't decided what you want, I encourage you to do this exercise. Let me see if I can pull this up here. I'll just pull a little side screen. There's an exercise. Take a column, a piece of paper, and just write down. This is an abbreviated version of this. Normally, I would have you write down 50 things that you want, but take and write down on a piece of paper 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just go top to bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Write down 10 things that you want. In fact, if you're watching live, go ahead and do it now. I'll wait. And if you're watching the replay of this, pause the video and take a piece of paper, write down 10 things that you want. What are 10 things that you desire? 10 things that are not a part of your life that you would love to have as a part of your life, to be your experience in life. Write down 10 things. It could be a nicer car, a more reliable car for your family member that you love. It could be, by the way, you can't allow yourself to judge whether or not this seems materialistic, this seems wrong, this seems too extravagant. If it comes to your mind, just write it down, write it down, write it down. 1 through 10, anything that comes to your mind, write it down. All right? I encourage you to do this. Now, the interesting thing is that once you have your list of 10 items on that list, then what I encourage you to do is from the 10, pick out your top 3. What are the top 3 things out of those 10 that are most important to you? Okay? Let's just assume that you've done that now. All right. You can then, on the same piece of paper, you can write 1, 2, 3. Now, write down those 3 things. And then circle the one out of those 3 that is the most important to you. Now you have a clear indication of what it is that you want. Let's just say, I want $360,000 by the end of this year. Okay. Do you really strongly desire that? Now, let me go into the next screen here and tell you that knowing what you want is essential. What you want, you see, is the destination of where you're going next in life. All right. This is like your brain giving a GPS, using a GPS system. It's like, okay, I want to go to Franklin, Tennessee. I'm going to go have a meeting with some of my friends down there. And this is the address. And now the GPS says, okay, I'm going to plan a route. I'm going to create a plan for how to go after this. All right? That's exactly what you're doing. You choosing what you want is telling your subconscious mind, this is where I must end up. All right? This is where I'm going. This is where I want to be. And then your subconscious mind, your brain, is your GPS system that is now going to give you a plan for how to get there. But wait, there's still more. In my step-by-step formula, step number 2 is you've got to know why you want it. You have to have some sense of purpose. Like you have to understand, why would your life be better, exponentially better by having this? What would you be able to achieve in serving others or being of service to others in ways that you would not be able to if you didn't have this? In what ways will this free you up to have more margin in your life? In what ways will this bring more enjoyment and peace and satisfaction in your life? In what ways will this allow you to experience more of the life you feel called or created to live in this world? Really get a sense of purpose. How would this help you accomplish your life's mission, your life's purpose? And you see, we talked about knowing what you want is the destination of where you're going. But it's important to have fuel to take the journey. And that's your why. Why do you want it is step number 2. You have to have enough why to get to the destination. Because I'm going to tell you, you're going to punch in your destination, Franklin, Tennessee. That's my goal. That's what I want. And your subconscious mind is going to plan around just like your GPS does. But then all of a sudden, something happens. There's a major car accident, and it looks like it's going to be backed up for the expressway is going to be shut down for like 3.5 hours. Now, this is actually going to make you miss your intended meeting. That's not good. So, what happens is you need to be able to get to a place where your purpose for getting to that destination says, I'm willing to do what it takes to find alternative routes. Am I willing to leave early? Am I willing to take the back ways? Am I willing to pay a toll to get there? See, the thing is all of these obstacles that are going to get your way, you have to have enough fuel to take the long way around every now and then. You want to make sure that you keep your fuel tank filled up to the top, and you're only going to do that if you have a strong enough why. All right. So, okay, we've got that. When there is a big enough why, the how is always going to follow. All right. So the question is, well, okay, now I know what I want. I know why I must have it. Now, how do I get it? Well, first, all you had to do is ask, and your subconscious mind is now going to give you the GPS step by step plan. And it may not come instantly, but you'll want to start following it as soon as you can. But before you're going to get the plan, before you're going to get the step by step instructions, you still need something else. And that's where we get to step number 3. You must believe that it's possible. You must believe that you're worthy. You must believe that it's acceptable. You must believe that it's not immoral. You have to believe that it can be done. You have to believe that you have to start having a mindset that says, instead of going, "Oh, nobody, why would anybody do this for me? There's so many other people do it. Why me? Why would anybody me? Why would they choose me?" You have to actually start to develop a mindset where your dominating thoughts are not why me, but instead why not me. This is an essential part. This is where so many people see these step-by-step formulas for how to get what they want, but they fail miserably because in their mind they still don't believe they are capable of it. You are capable of far more than anything you can possibly imagine. You were created with a purpose. Whether or not you believe in creation in the way that I do theologically, I don't it doesn't matter. But what I can tell you is that there is just no random chance of events that brought you to this place at this time. And those dreams that you have, those things that you wrote down, the things that you say you want, those 10 things, even if they're materialistic in some way, there's something behind it that is some indicator of who you were created to be and the work that you're meant to do in this world. And when you begin to pursue it, you have to understand there are going to be some things that are bigger than you've ever dreamed before that you're going to need to start dreaming. And I will tell you that anything that you can dream, it is possible for you. Otherwise, I don't believe the seed of that dream would have been planted in you from the beginning. Now, that is essential. It is very important. Henry Ford is quoted to have said this. He says, "Whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you are correct." You want to evaluate any limiting beliefs that you may have regarding this matter and replace them with empowering beliefs. And by the way, if you don't know how to do that, I encourage you to go check out mindsetanswerman.com/free. mindsetanswerman.com/free. Over there, you're going to see the opening keynote address for my Free the Dream conference that I did in 2018, 2019, and eventually, after all the coronavirus stuff, at some point in the future, we'll bring it back. But this is the opening keynote address where I talk about how to discover the limiting beliefs that are holding you back from living the life of your dreams or the life that you've been created to live, and how to not only discover them, but eliminate them from your life so they're no longer holding you back, and how to develop new beliefs that empower you to succeed in anything and everything you put your mind to. All right. So if you want to know how to get rid of those limiting beliefs and replace them with empowering beliefs, I encourage you to go to mindsetanswerman.com/free. All right, step number 4, decide right now that you must achieve this goal. All right, decide right now that you must achieve this goal. In fact, I want to talk to you about the power of the word decide. or decision, either one. Both of them are extremely powerful words. And unfortunately, I discovered a few years ago that I have been using these words in a diluted fashion. Diluted meaning that they've lost their potency. But these are extremely potent words. Decide, decision. Let me start with decision. The word scission in the original Latin root of the word was to cut. You've probably heard of incision. A doctor with his scalpel makes an incision, he cuts the skin open. Scission is to cut. So when you make a decision, what you're saying is, I have decided I will cut off any other outcome than what I've just stated that I desire. I'm absolutely going to have this. Same with the word decide. The root word is cid in Latin, and it means to kill. You've probably heard of pesticide, homicide, and all the other sides out there. But when you decide something, you are literally putting to death, you are killing any other option than attaining your goal. Have you ever made that kind of decision? I hope so. Tony Robbins says this. He says, uh, the important thing here is not initially, you do not initially have to know how you're going to achieve the goal. You must simply, however, decide that you will do whatever it takes to make it happen. Now, of course, for some of us, we're going to have some caveat of I will do whatever is legal or moral and ethical, obviously. But the thing is I am still going to find a way. Nothing is going to hold me back. This is something I know deep in my soul. I now have faith. I now have belief. I'm not only worthy of it, I was created for it. This is what I must have to carry out what I feel called to do next in my life. I have decided I will have this. I will do whatever it takes. Then we move to step number 5. And it's one of my favorites because it's the easiest one to do out of all of the steps. And that's to simply write it down. All right. I actually have mine committed to memory. And matter of fact, I'm going to pull it out of my pocket here. This is just one of my goals for this year in 2020. This is in my wallet right here. And I will pull it out of my wallet and I will hold it up to the camera and read it, and I will close my eyes to show you that this is how this stuff that I teach, I actually follow this stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close my eyes. I just want to make sure, are you able to see it? Yep. So I'm closing my eyes and see how close I get to this. I am fully committed to generating a minimum of $360,000 in business revenue in 2020. I will do so through my paid mastermind groups, one-on-one coaching, and few other paid products and services. Also, I am fully committed to generating to increasing my recurring revenue to $30,000, a minimum of $30,000 per month by the end of this year. Now, that should be pretty close to what you see on this. This is a handwritten, I hand wrote this on this card. I also have it in my reminders app. I have used an app currently called Todoist, and it reminds me every morning at 5 a.m. to read that statement out loud. And not only that, but I also have it remind me at 8 p.m. every night. So imagine 365 days this year, I am going to read that statement at least twice a day. And I have also made a firm commitment. Every time I pull open my wallet for any reason, I will read that statement to myself. But I first had to write it down. Now, I encourage you to write it down with your hands. You can type it anywhere you want and put it anywhere you want, but you must write it down with your hands. Let me tell you why. First and foremost, Dr. Gail Matthews, a psychology professor from the Dominican University in California, did a study. And the result of that study says this: you're 42% more likely to achieve your goal simply by writing it down. 42%. Now, I want to tell you, I have this conference. Hold on one second. I have this conference. It's called Free the Dream. And at Free the Dream, everybody gets one of these workshops. And earlier in this talk here, I gave you an assignment. Write down 1 to 10. Now, in the workbook, I have people go 1 to 50, and I give them like 10 minutes to come up with 50 things that they want. And then they do their top 10. Then they do their top 3, and then they choose their one. So at this conference, people write down 50 things, and it's a challenge because most people have been conditioned to not want things. Most people have been conditioned that it's greedy to want things. Most people have been conditioned that they're not worthy of these things. Most people have been conditioned that if I have more, other people obviously must have less. Those are, by the way, all limiting beliefs that need to be eliminated and replaced with empowering thoughts. Again, you can go to mindsetanswerman.com/free to learn how to do that. But here's what I love. The first year I did Free the Dream, there were 87 people from all over the world, 4 different countries. The second year of Free the Dream, there was 117 people at the conference, again from all over the world. And all of those people did this exercise. And do you know what my favorite thing in the world is? To get emails that says, "Hey Cliff, I just achieved another thing I wrote down." And on top of that, I love it when they tell me this is one I thought would never happen, but you told me to write it down whether I believe it's possible or not, to write it down. I'm telling you, you're 42% more likely to get anything you want in life if you will simply allow yourself to write it down with a pen and paper, or something where you physically have to do it with your hand-eye coordination. Why is that, by the way? Well, Gail Matthews talked about this, and I'm going to take a drink of my water here, and then I'm going to read to you what she said. All right, just a moment. All righty. Here is what she said. She said, "The right hemisphere of our brain is the imaginative side. The left hemisphere of our brain is the literal side. If you only think about your goal, you are only engaging the right hemisphere. But if you both think about and write it down, you also tap into the power of your logic based left hemisphere. The electrical signals that communicate between the left and right hemisphere travels through a bundle of nerve fibers called the corpus callosum. These signals then move into a fluid that surrounds the brain and travels up and down the spinal column. These signals communicate with every fiber, cell, and bone in our body to the consciousness that operates within us to transform our thoughts into reality." And I got a question for you. Does that sound too woo-woo for you? By the way, I looked up the definition of woo-woo, which means it's somewhat dubious, outlandishly mystical, supernatural, or even unscientific. I thought that sounded a little too woo-woo. But here's what I will tell you. I've studied a lot of things, and it's actually more scientific than you can possibly imagine. And with all of the study that I've done in the past 18 months on quantum physics, not that I am trying to do things in the field of quantum physics, but I love to understand how our body operates at a subatomic level. It's really awesome stuff. But anyway, the only thing is whether you can, if you can trust me, if I can just suggest to you and you might accept it, the reality is that whether you believe what she says about how it happens, scientifically, the study has proven out that you are, in fact, 42% more likely to achieve any goal if you will simply write it down. All right. Step number 6, place your goals where you can see them. Let me give you this. I love this. What we focus on consistently will tend to manifest itself in our lives. Here's a picture of myself and a friend of mine. Now, this is Chris Nelson here. Chris Nelson is a client who came out to one of my next level workshops here in my home studio. I have a place called the Next Level Studio, big training facility here inside my home. And he actually came for this weekend workshop, and he spent an entire extra day. Now, the only thing is I'm going to tell you that he spent $7,500 to spend one day with me. My price has since doubled from that. It's $15,000 if you want to spend a day with me today. And depending on when you're seeing this video down the future, it might even be more than that. But why would I even mention that it's $7,500? It is important, I promise you. All right. So He spent $7,500 to spend one extra day with me here in the Next Level studio. And we went out to lunch together in the middle of our coaching day. And I said, "Hey, Chris, you're lucky that Stephanie didn't have any errands today. Otherwise, we would have had to Uber." I can't remember. I guess or we would have had to take your car if he had a rental car. I can't remember how the whole story went down, but I do know we were driving in our car, and I said, I don't have a car myself. I've given my son my car. Stephanie, usually, and I said I haven't had a desire to have a car. I work from home. I'm blah 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 most of the time. So there have been a number of times that I've actually called Uber to go somewhere for, like, if I wanted to go to lunch or something like that, meet with a friend, I'll just Uber my way there, which is ridiculous. It's like, well, what's the big deal about that? It's like, I live in northern Kentucky. We're not so to Uber somewhere is like $30 one way. It's not those $4.56 trips that you get down in San Diego or some of the other places. So, but I was joking that I Uber. I was like, listen, I'm just not a car guy. He goes, "You're not a car guy?" He says, "You don't have a dream car?" And all of a sudden, remember, so we've been conditioned not to dream. We've been conditioned not to want, right? And I had thought, it's like, oh my gosh, you know what? Wait a second. Yeah, I do. I guess I have a dream car. I actually have two dream cars. One is less practical than the other. And actually, they sit both. And you notice all of a sudden, it's like the language of, oh, that's not practical. I'm not worthy. It's not, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I said one is a Lexus, or not no, one is a Lexus. Lexus came from the story earlier. One is a Tesla. I would love to have a Tesla. And so um a Tesla would be nice, but I don't know. I mean, the one thing I would, if I'm going to get a car and spend that much on a car, I'd want a car that would allow me to do the things like travel all the way down to Montgomery, Alabama, and and do a speaking gig. I traveled, all these places, and I just don't know about the range. And I know that there's chargers, but I don't know. Maybe it's not that important to me. But I do have a dream car. And a dream car for me would be a mid or early 70s Volkswagen Beetle. He goes, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Why?" And all of a sudden I start talking about it. I said, "Well, I just remember when I was a kid, my aunt had one of these, and I remember just the smell of the car, the sound of the car. And I like the little look of the car. I guess maybe when I was a kid, we watched Herbie, the Love Bug, and stuff like that. And as I was a teenager, one of my friends had an old Bug that was junked out, but they put roll bars in it and was out driving dune buggying with it. And I'm like, it's like, and there was always these bugs, and I was like, man, I'd like to have one of those. I would love to drive one of those, and it was just something that seemed so far out of my reach. And then I didn't realize this, but it came up in conversation when I was at lunch with Chris Nelson, that all of a sudden that, hey, every time I've ever seen one on the side of a road for sale, I've always turned around and went back and looked at it. Crazy. He says, "Well, how much do they run?" And I said, if I get one, I want one that is it doesn't matter to me if it has a little rust. That would be no big deal. But if it does have rust, it's got to have very little. It's got to be one that when I turn the key, it starts. I'm not a car guy, so I'm not going to be sitting there working on it, adjusting the points and valves and all this other stuff. It's just not me. So I want one that's going to be, but I want an early 70s. So, 45-year-old car, I don't know. But he says, "Well, how much would one in the condition that you're?" I said, "Somewhere between $7,000 to $10,000." He's like, "Oh, cool." And that was the end of that conversation. Okay? That was the end of the conversation. Well, about a couple days later, I get a package delivered in the mail, and in mail is a box. It's about yay big, and this box has something inside of it wrapped up, and there's a card that says this. Let me tell you what the card says. It says, "Thank you, Cliff, so much for helping me get started on the road to my dream. In return, I wanted to help you get started with one of yours. Enjoy. Have a good one, Chris Nelson." And then there was this on my desk. Now, I don't know if you can see it. I'll zoom in a little bit for you. It's right there. In fact, that car is always on my desk. It's right here. And check this out. The car, the doors open up, the bonnet on top opens up, and this car just sat there on my desk every day, and I would be sitting there playing with it, and it was sitting right in front of my monitor, and every day this car was there. And as I was looking at the car, I thought about my conversation with Chris, and I'm like, yeah, that is my dream car, isn't it? I know I'm not a car guy, but I could totally see myself having one of these. And it's like day after day. It's right there. It's right in front of me. Now, again, this isn't like some of those people say that all you do is you start visualizing it, you see yourself as having the car, and then it shows up in your driveway. It does not work like that. There is no such thing as something for nothing. But this was in front of me every day, and I asked myself every day. Now, subconsciously, I asked myself some questions. Am I worthy of this car? Is this car something that would be right for me to have? What would it feel like to have this car? What would life be like if I had? I needed to know what I want. Do I want this? Number one, do I want it? Am I going to give myself permission to desire this car? I had to get over any limiting beliefs about wanting it. And then I asked myself, why would I want it? Well, here's why I would want it. It'd be nice to have. It would remind me of my biological dad who has since passed away. It would remind me of some earlier times in my childhood. It'd be nostalgic. I'd love the smell. It'd be fun to just drive around and have a cool car like this to drive around. It'd be neat to see people's heads turn when I'm driving down the road. It'd be cool to hear the little horn that goes, it's like, oh, meet me. It's like, oh, it would be so. And I'm starting to feel this thing. It's like, oh my gosh, okay, how much would one of these be? I remember the conversation. No, seriously, like, how much would it be to have this one? By the way, this is a 1973 Volkswagen Beetle. And so I all of a sudden I'm like, okay, now I want one. Now all of a sudden it's starting to become a desire. And one day, within like 2 weeks, I think, I may be getting the time frame wrong, but the story is accurate to the intent of the story. But a few weeks have gone by. I see this car every day. Now I have a strong, burning desire to have this car. So I'm like, I'm going to go to Facebook Marketplace and I'm going to see are there any Volkswagen classic Volkswagen Beetles within 50 miles of my house. And then one day I see that well, first of all, there's lots of them and most of them are junk. But I see this one that is $9,000 and it seems to have all of the things I want. It's 1974 instead of 1973. 73 is what I had in my mind simply because that was the year I was born. But 74 would qualify for early 70s classic Volkswagen Beetle. Not only that, but it was in perfect mint condition. In fact, this is crazy, but they said it's got the original 5,000 miles on it. 5,000 miles is all this 1974 Volkswagen Beetle has had on it. There is absolutely zero rust anywhere on the car. You crank the engine and it starts immediately. This is a pristine vehicle. It has been a show car. It has been modified a little bit, but it is a pristine car. Just came in from Texas. It was a car dealership less than 50 miles away, and it was $9,000. And I'm like, wait a second, that's awesome. Now, first of all, you got to remember, how much is it? In my mind, when I told him, because now this is the reason why it was $9,000 instead of like the 7,500 to 10,000 for the quality that I was thinking of. See, when I had done some research before, 7,500 was if this car was in the early 70s and had a little bit of rust and a little bit of a significant amount of wear and tear. The seat covers are all kind of cracked and all that other stuff, right? That's the seventh. And what got me to start searching is like, wait a second, can I afford this? It's like, well, what a stupid question is that? What? Wait, can I afford a 1970s Volkswagen Beetle? How much does it cost? $7,500. Can I afford it? I just earned $7,500 in one day. Can I afford a $7,500 car? What a ridiculous question. And that's when all of a sudden I start searching. And then I did some questions back and forth with this car dealer, found out all the information I just shared, told I told my wife Stephanie on my way out to the gym, how much do you love me? She says, what is it that you want? And I said, I'm thinking about a Beetle that I just found. She goes, well, yeah, how much is it? And I said, $9,000. She goes, yeah, go ahead. You got it. And I said, cool. Well, I went to the gym and I'm doing more exchanges. And that morning, after enough, I said, I'm going to go to this car dealer. And here's what I know to be true. I'm going to drive to the car dealer. if I turn the key over and it starts and I take it for a drive and it runs well and it's in the condition that they say, I'm coming home with this car tonight. And within just a few weeks of this thing just sitting right in front of me here every single day, this beautiful car was mine. This is Abigail, by the way. The light, it's got for the first time in my life, I have, what do you call those? The vanity plates. It's got Abby 74 on the back of it, Abby hyphen 74 because it's Abigail, so Abby for short, and 1974. Now, Abigail is the name of my 1974 classic Volkswagen Beetle because Abigail stands for the meaning behind that name is the Father's joy. And every single time I get into that car, I think about God and the joy that He has for me and who I am and the work that I am doing and the things that the purpose for which He's put me on this earth for. The fact that He has so much joy and delight in me. When I get in this car and I feel that same joy, I'm reminded of the joy that God has with me. Not only that, there's a double meaning, the Father's joy. I remember that just how much my biological dad, who has since passed away, the joy that he had for me and as being his son. We may not have always had a wonderful relationship. There were challenges throughout my young adult life with him. But what I tell you is when I get in this car, I'm reminded the smell of the car brings back and has neuro associations to some pretty powerful positive memories of times I spent with my dad as a child. And so there's that. And it's like, these are the things. It's like, because of all of those things, I knew what I wanted. And I will tell you what, place your goals. The whole purpose of this, place your goals where you can see them. All right. Find some kind of visual representation of what it is that you want to remind yourself of what you want, why you want it, and your decision that you've made that you will have it and that you've written it down and now you're going to place it in front of you. Do you see how this all works together? All right. Step number 7, tell others. There are 2 reasons why, or actually 3 reasons why I want to tell you that telling others is important. Number 1, it provides a sense of accountability. I'll never forget the time that I made a commitment. I'm going to work out 6 days a week, every week for the rest of my life. Now, I made that commitment on November 14th, 2014, and I've lived up to that. Now, that doesn't mean that I've done it perfectly all the time, but I still today, you ask anybody who knows me, especially my family, they'll tell you the truth. My dad works out 6 days a week, every week, has done so since November 2014. It's now been almost 5 years. Or is it over 5? Anyway, you do the math on it. I think it's almost 6 years now. Anyway, the thing is this is who what I told the world I'm going to do this because now I've told everybody I'm going to do it. And there's some accountability there. What would people say if this? I like the fact that people, there's enough people out there that don't like me, that are looking for me to fail. I'm not going to give them that pleasure. So the idea that I told somebody now puts me on the line for doing it, right? I'm on the hook. All right. The next one is allows me to receive encouragement from those who are cheering me on. Now, I will tell you, sometimes the bigger the things that you want, the bigger your dream that you go on in life, that's not always the case that people are going to cheer you on. There will be enough people who are actually they allow themselves to feel small by your daring to dream so big. They sometimes they have settled for a certain standard in life and they feel guilty and ashamed of it, and you're dreaming bigger and going after it and making any progress towards it makes them feel inadequate. But I will tell you, I want to read something to you, and it's a powerful statement, and those are all limiting beliefs that you can overcome. And so I'm going to pull up my Evernote file here on my phone and see if I can't pull up this Merriam Williamson quote. She says this: "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world." Let me repeat that one. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing so enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that's within us. It's not in just some of us, it's in everyone. And get this, as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Tell others. Not only will you find some who will encourage you on your journey towards success, but it also will allow you to, number three, be a source of inspiration, encouraging others to raise their own standards in life. And unfortunately, you'll have to grow some thick skin for those who aren't ready to raise their own standards. Okay. Most importantly, telling others about my goal has always led me to learn key elements needed for the plan for their achievement. Hey, Cliff, you want to do that? Yeah. How are you doing? Well, I've done this, this, this. That's been great. I did this, this. That was not so great. Learned some valuable lessons there. Wow. I'm currently stuck right here. What do you mean you're stuck? What do you mean? I explain it. Oh, have you ever talked to so and so? And seriously? And boom, next action. I'm going to go talk to so and so within the next 24 hours. All right, step number 8. So, step 7, by the way, little reminder, tell others. Step number 8, take massive action now. Ask yourself, what is one action, 2 actions, 3? What are 1, 2, or 3 things that I can take within the next 24 hours to move one step closer to my goal? Write them down, all right? And then do them within 24 hours. Ask yourself, what is one action that I can take, or several actions? What actions can I take within the next week to accomplish my goal? And then commit to doing that within that week. All right. What's the one action I can do within the next month? By the way, and just Tony Robbins says this, never leave the site of a decision without taking action. You must take action. And here's what I will tell you. If you don't skip the first 3 to 4 steps, I promise you this will not be a problem. Because if you know what you want and you have enough why behind you must have, and you make a decision that you will, and you believe and have faith, not only that you should have or could have it, but that you must have it, that it's essential to being who you were created to be. If you do those things successfully and eliminate all those limiting beliefs and replace them with empowering beliefs, see mindsetanswerman.com/free for the free opening keynote address to Free the Dream Conference to learn how to do that. You will not have problems taking action. Your lack of motivation, your issue with procrastination has everything to do with not having clarity about what you want and why you want it, and a decision that you will have it with firm faith and no doubt. All right? If you need help with those things, go to cliffravenscraft.com and click on the Work With Me tab and see if we can't work together. And I'll tell you, you'll learn why people pay me so much to work with them to help their dreams come true. But if you just follow the step-by-step process, I think you're going to be well on your way. Step number 9, Tony Robbins says that after you've taken actions, every time you take an action, whether you succeed or fail, does not matter. Just evaluate what your results are. Keep evaluating your results. Do you have what you want? Are you closer to it? Are you moving closer to it? Are you moving off course? Are you going in the wrong direction? Evaluate that. And then, how do I have 3 vital decisions in here? I'm not going to do, it's essential, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to break free from here because I'm not going to include the 3 vital decisions. That's another talk for another time. And if this was a worksheet at Social Media Marketing World, which is where these slides came from my workshop that I did there, then I would include them. But that's going to you'll just have to learn that from me another time, another place, another time. But step number 10, change your approach as often as necessary. All right? Tony Robbins said it like this when I learned this step from him in his ultimate success formula, which, a reminder, that was only a 4-step formula. He says, if you have children, how many children do you have that are healthy and, born with their, all the limbs they're supposed to have, all of that? How many parents have a desire to see their children learn how to walk? Well, how many times have you allowed your child to fall down and bump their head and all of these different things? How many times do you allow a child to fail at walking without holding themselves up before you say, you know what, just crawl through your way through life? You don't do that. you actually allow them to learn from all of their failures all the time, every bump, bruise, scrape. You hopefully try to fix the environment to where it's conducive of the right things, right? You're trying to take the right actions to achieve less and less failure. But the thing is a child who learns how to walk because they changed their approach over and over again until they finally walked. That's what you have to do. All right. All right. And then there's a bonus here is role modeling. And let me just go ahead and pull off that thing here. If you want to actually shortcut your success, find somebody who is already successfully doing what it is that you want to do. Find somebody who already has what it is that you desire to have in your life. Become a student of them. Learn, how did they get those things? What steps? Where did they go? Who did they talk to? Where did they shop? Whatever the case is, what skills did they get? What courses did they take? What books did they read? How did they develop the mindset? How did they overcome their own limiting beliefs? Learn role modeling. Role modeling is simply finding somebody who's already got it so you can actually avoid some of those costly mistakes that they did. All right. So, that, my friends, is a step by step formula for how to get whatever you want. And so, my friends, thank you so much for tuning into this live stream. Is there any questions that you have about this? Real quickly, if you put them into the comment, if you have a question about any of this steps that I just gave, feel free to put them in here and I will quickly pull them up on my screen. So again, if you have a question related to any of the steps, put them in here. All right. So Ronald Cole says, I missed some of this. I'll have to go back after. Well, you're welcome to do, Ronald. I encourage you to do so. Renee says, darling picture. Love Chris. Chris Nelson is awesome. Okay. And Ronald says, yep. And look, let's see, and look at you now. I remember when you started that. He's saying, look at you now. I remember when you started that. So what I'm going to do is in my slides, I'm going to go back and I want to show you a picture of what I looked like before I made the commitment to working out 6 days a week, every week for the rest of my life. By the way, I'm stalling for your questions just in case you guys do have questions. So you'll have the opportunity to share your questions. This, my friends, right here, let me pull Ron's comment off and pull this up here. This, my friends, is what I looked like when I made the commitment to working out 6 days a week, every week for the rest of my life. And by the way, the picture on the left there, that is as far as I could bend down. If you asked me to bend down and touch my toes, that was as far as I was going to be able to go. I was almost 300 pounds. I'm under 200 pounds now and have been for, well, it took me about 9-10 months to get under there. And I've kept it all off for all of these years. So, yeah, awesome stuff. All right, let's kill that, and then let's see here. Well, no questions, so that's fine. I'll tell you what. Maybe I've given you the step by step formula. I hope that you've written these things down. That you'll take that exercise seriously. If you want to get even more into it, spend an afternoon and do what are 50 things that I want. Then narrow it down to 10. Then narrow it down to 3. Then narrow it down to 1. And then make sure that you check out mindsetanswerman.com/free. Go watch the opening keynote address. It's absolutely 100% free. You don't have to pay a single penny for it. You do sign up for my email list, and then you'll get my weekly newsletter. But feel free to unsubscribe anytime you want. No hard feelings. And then of course, let's see here. Alex says, "Hey Cliff, loving the Think and Grow Rich audio journal," and I'll make a little shout out for that. I'm doing a chapter by chapter analysis of this book called Think and Grow Rich. I'll put it over here since it would, better block video blocking here. But Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. This book is the philosophy of success. It's basically a 25-year study that Napoleon Hill did of the wealthiest people in America. This was back in the 1920s. That was published in 1937. And this book gives you so much insight into how to get anything you want in life. And a lot of it goes into a whole lot more depth than what I've just said here. Again, the steps that I all gave you, they're essential, they're real, they'll get you whatever you want in life. But there's more and more distinction. I could go on for an entire hour on each of those. I could go on for hours on each of those steps to tell you more behind those steps, but I wanted to give an overview of these things. If you just start moving forward, you're going to get it. But in Think and Grow Rich, or in the audio journal, it's a podcast that I have on Patreon. You can find it over, again, mindsetanswerman.com/audio journal. It's $10 a month to be an audio journal subscriber through Patreon, but you get an RSS feed, a podcast feed that you can put in your favorite podcasting app. There's a tutorial on how to do that. And starting with episode 168 of the audio journal is Think and Grow Rich update number 1. So far, there are 18 episodes of Cliff's notes on Think and Grow Rich, and and that's only on the first 4 chapters, by the way. And I am actually going to finish the entire book. I'm going to go through all of it, and you're going to have all of my thoughts. Imagine imagine 6 hours of thoughts on just the first two chapters of Think and Grow Rich. So my friends, check that out, mindsetanswerman.com/audio journal. And James says this, he says, thank you so much, Cliff. Your content is always top notch, inspiring, and useful. Thank you, James. I really appreciate that. And that is the final comment I have on here. So I am going to click a little button over here, and I am going to tell you that until next time, I encourage you to raise your standards in life. Dare to dream big dreams. Go over ask yourself, what is the life that I'm created to live? What do I want in my life that I don't have now? Get clear about what you want. Decide that you must have it, or actually know why you must have it, and then decide that you will have it. And until then, I encourage you to take everything you do to the next level. Bye-bye. Mindset Answer Man.